and break up with your husband.
Yeah. And
Hitch
so
Adams.
he'd yell, "Welcome to Earth," and then punch you in the face.
And then, interestingly enough, he also did a radio show that broadcast in South Vietnam.
Yeah.
Right.
And worked and tested for a while.
Yeah.
Good morning, dead poets.
Those are the best poets, Tom.
Hitch Adams, my Hitch Adams.
Like realistically, do poets get are they like wine? Do they get better with age? Like after they pass away?
That's like artists. It's the same thing. Yes. In theory, the theory is that if you're a very successful artist during your time that you're alive, you weren't actually all that good, and your stuff won't stand the test of time. But if you were
that's my hope.
Crappy, then your legacy.
That's what I'm banking on.
We found these rare sketches on toilet paper. Found it, Roger.
They're genius. He was never appreciated in his time.
If only he let someone see these.
What could have been?
Yeah, make sure I don't.
All my honorable mention ribbons.
Well, wait a minute. Wouldn't what's his name? Who's the guy who did the? I keep forgetting his name. The guy with the soup cans.
Andy Warhol.
Yeah, he was pretty well known alive. Well, I mean, he passed away, right?
He had his 15 minutes.
Yeah, he had his time. I mean, his stuff's still considered pretty a big deal. I mean, my wife found a book signed by him at some flea market that I own, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. His stuff never really did it for me. It was all right.
Did he sketch a little soup can next to his signature?
No, that's the problem. Is a lot of people. I mean, there's proof that he could draw, but not really, like not well. His thing came from like weird photo.
He wasn't a drawer. He was an artist.
He was, exactly, and that's what he banked on. He tried to draw, though. They all do.
Banksy, Don.
Freaking, what's his name? Who's the splatter painter guy?
Oh, Pollock.
Jackson Pollock was a very traditional artist.
Alaskan Pollock.
Before he got to the whole spatter phase, and then that all changed.
Well, so did who's the Spanish? Picasso.
Yeah, Picasso was that way. So was what's his name? Melty Clocks guy.
Oh, Salvador Dali.
Dali was very traditional in the beginning. Most of them are.
You have to learn to walk before you can run.
Yeah, you can't get weird until you've done normal. I think the most striking version of that is probably not Escher.
Gödel.
No, the guy. Freaking alien. Why can't they get any names today?
Oh, Geiger.
Giger.
That's what I'm supposed to say.
All right, we ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yes, Geiger notwithstanding. Let's do a show.
Here we go.
Daily Tech News Show is powered by...
Who made that noise?
Not me.
Let's start over. Here we go.
Daily Tech News Show is powered by its audience, not outside organizations. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, August 24th, 2016. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Mr. Scott Johnson alongside from frogpants.com, if that's its real name.
Hi, Tom. It is its real name. You were right. You were right the first time.
How is it going, Mr. Scott Johnson?
It's going okay. I'm from frogpants.com. You might be familiar with me. No, here. Hey, it's Wednesday, dude. I'm here. I've got my special.
I just coughed and muted the wrong button, so that ruined that.
Oh. Are we all ruined?
There we go. Hey, Google Fiber started taking signups in Salt Lake City today.
Yeah. Don't tell me about it, dude.
So you're like how many blocks south of the
here at the house?
Can you see Google Fiber's rollout area from your house?
Actually, yeah. If I get up on the, well, I guess I'd have to get on the roof a bit, but I can see it, and it's not even an 8-minute drive from here where it ends. So it's kind of a real bummer for me. I'm right on the edge.
Well, they say they're going to roll it out to other parts of the city in the next few months. So hopefully it gets to you. I mean, Comcast has the 2 gig service. It's like $300 a month there.
Yeah, I mean, I have really good service from Comcast, and actually Comcast, I've said this on the show before, Comcast is well regarded in Utah. They do us pretty well here in Salt Lake City. But everybody knows they want Google Fiber when it comes, so it's just a matter of time. I just would be happy to have it right now. And I'm a little surprised they didn't extend it this far. Where I live happens to be an area that was had some forethought put into it back in 2007 when they were building it, and they were like, we're going to need fiber run everywhere. We're going to have to be the next level. It can't just be copper and crappy infrastructure. So if anything, I'm a little surprised, but I'll wait. It's fine. I'm talking to you now, aren't I? This is working, so we're fine. It's fine.
So don't jinx it. It's working. Regarding the next iPhone, Steve Wozniak told the Australian Financial Review, if it's missing the 3.5 millimeter earphone jack, that's going to tick a lot of people off. I like that he calls it the earphone jack. That's the best. Now here are some more top stories. Speaking of Apple, Stephen Levy has a feature on Back Channel about Apple's work in AI. Apple moved Siri's voice recognition to a system based on neural networks on July 30th, 2014. I bet you didn't even notice, but that Siri must have started working better. At least some people say it did. Apple also insists AI is baked into other features in the OS, things like identifying a caller even if they're not in your contacts, just by looking at your email perhaps. Appointment reminders that aren't in your calendar, but they knew you had them, again, by reading your email. Or the list of apps you're most likely to open when you swipe right. That's all AI and machine learning. The Palm rejection in the Apple Pencil uses machine learning. Levy says Apple thinks machine learning is only the latest in a steady flow of groundbreaking technologies. That's why they don't make a big deal out of it. The gist of the article is that Apple doesn't have a machine learning department. They don't have a place devoted to this. It's spread out through all the different teams. And in Phil Schiller's words, we use these techniques to do the things we have always wanted to do better than we've been able to do. They don't publish research. They don't publicize their machine learning advances because they don't want to tip off competitors, but they do spend most of a day with Stephen Levy to combat the perception that Apple is lagging behind in AI, Scott.
Well, I mean, you could. There's a billion arguments that they are actually lagging behind in the AI department, but of course they're doing stuff there. And as a person who enjoys his iPhone, I like the idea, assuming that they're being honest with us, that machine learning is something that's spread through the entire company and therefore affects all the products that they sell that I happen to enjoy. That sounds really utopian and cool, but some might argue that a dedicated group of very focused, very smart individuals might yield better results in the long term. I don't know. Just throwing that out there.
It's a little bit of the executives protest too much. Like, let's bring in Stephen Levy, who's great. He's an excellent writer. He does great features. Obviously, they trust him. He's gotten great access at Apple before. And let's show him what we've been doing. But they didn't talk about anything like self-driving cars. They didn't talk about their television service. They didn't reveal anything new. It was basically them trying to show, hey, guys, you probably don't realize all this great machine learning stuff we do, but we do it, so don't say that we are way behind. We're right in there. You pointed out on the comments, a lot of people saying, like, yeah, but Google has shown you can make it public and still do great AI stuff, so why not just make it public? Apple doesn't want to. That's never been Apple's way.
Yeah, you're asking them to change their entire operation in terms of their culture for as long as they've existed. So I don't think that's a fair thing to tell them to do. But I take their word for it that they know this is important. And I'll say I think Siri improved. Actually, I've never really had giant problems with Siri, so maybe it's just the way I use it.
I never use it. It's never worked for me.
I'm
like on the opposite side of that fence.
I use it for simple stuff. Reminders. She hears the names I say. I don't really have a problem with her. She's been fine for me.
The voice recognition is okay, and maybe that's improved. But whenever I ask her a question, she just searches the web, and I'm like, well, I could have done that.
Yeah, that kind of stuff sucks. I think you know what I've done is I've boiled it down to like the 10 things that she does well.
That you know she's going to be good at. Yeah.
Sure. But the other thing I thought was interesting about this article, skimming through it, was they really did try to hammer home the idea that they are doing more with less of your data. That seems to be a wagon they're tying their string to here a little bit, and
yeah,
it doesn't surprise anybody given their recent past. But saying that we're keeping less stuff on servers, we are trying to keep as little as possible on servers. We're having the phone do the heavy lifting. That's all pretty good PR. I think it's all right.
Yeah, and honestly, I love that. I think saying, hey, we don't need to catalog and store everything about you to make this work is a great point. Because Google and Microsoft, as much as Microsoft pretends they don't, they store a lot of information about you in order to make the stuff work. So I like that they're emphasizing that. This does end up, and no disrespect to Stephen Levy, who wrote a very good article, and it's got some worthwhile stuff. This is an Apple PR push in the end. There's some legitimate facts that they're doing, and there's some legitimate revelations about the kind of machine learning that they realize that people don't understand. But the motivation behind getting this piece done is we need to combat a perception. And you know what? If you don't want to be transparent, don't be transparent. It's one of the things I did respect about Steve Jobs is he didn't say, I don't care about the press on one hand and then try to cuddle up to them on the other hand. He said, I don't care about the press, and that was it.
Yeah.
Like, he really meant it. This strikes me as, well, we don't really want to be transparent, but we hate it when not being transparent causes people to think bad things about us.
Well, and how did Steve Jobs, maybe it was a different cycle then, but the way Steve Jobs combated that is they were constantly pushing out products that made people go, ooh, they're ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And right now they're not necessarily. They're in kind of a safe place with a lot of their product lines. There's nothing incredibly new or evolutionary to talk about, and because of that, that's the perception, whether it's the truth or not. That's the perception, and maybe this is the first time they've really felt the heat from that perception. Being as on top as they are, it doesn't matter. That perception is what it is.
I wonder if the fact that today is the 5-year anniversary of Tim Cook taking over as CEO from Steve Jobs, and there have been a lot of pieces being written about that and how well is he doing, if that makes them feel the heat a little more.
Probably. I mean, 5 years, that was quick. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Well, in other news, Microsoft released WordFlow 2.0. All you 1.0 people or 1.x people get real excited now. An update to its iOS keyboard. You can swipe left to bring up new options, search for animated GIFs, one of my favorite things about anything, and your contacts or the web. You can now use 3D Touch to change the location of the cursor on iOS, and spacebar is more accurate, and emojis are suggested as you type phrases like thumbs up. I would not type the phrase thumbs up to get a thumbs up, though. I would just go get the thumbs up.
Yeah, I don't know if it's meant to be used that way or sort of like, oh, I didn't even think about using an emoji. Look, it's suggesting it. Isn't that great? I have occasionally gone over to these third-party keyboards, and this goes for Android and iOS both. I just end up going back to the defaults in both. Because there's always some instance where it doesn't work or it goes back to the default keyboard anyway. And I'm sure I'm in the minority here because I know a lot of people love these keyboards, and Google has a great iOS keyboard as well. People are really excited about this WordFlow keyboard. Maybe I'll try it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's worth giving a shot, but I end up doing the same thing. Sometimes I just don't feel like I know what I'm doing. Like, that's going to sound defeatist and make me sound like a dingus when it comes to keyboards, but like, I'm probably saving time with a new fancy keyboard that does a different method. But I don't feel like I am. I feel like it's taking me actually more time because they're telling me to take all this muscle memory from decades and change it. Mm-hmm. And I'm old.
I'm old. Google announced it will begin lowering search rankings for sites that use intrusive interstitial ads starting January 10th, 2017. Examples of offending interstitials are the pop-up ads that cover the content after you go to a page. That's the one we all think of. Standalone ads that you have to dismiss before a page will load. Ads that are so large you have to scroll to find content. This would seem to include those ads that kind of tell you, hey, you're using an ad blocker, you can't get to the content. I wonder if that lowers your search ranking. Google did carve out exceptions. They say that if you're doing a pop-up to give a legal notice, like a cookie notification that they require in Europe, that's okay. If you're just putting up a login for a paywall, like a straight-ahead paywall, that's okay. And reasonable and dismissible banner ads, they're basically talking about those little banners that show up at the top of a web page on mobile that say, hey, you could download our app over here. Those are okay. This will replace that November 2015 policy, which penalized sites for pop-ups encouraging the download of mobile apps that covered most of the page.
In my case, this is going to affect mainly one site I go to a lot, which is Polygon.com. I know The Verge does this as well as sister sites and everything, but when you go to a mobile version of that site, an ad will immediately appear that you can kind of get started on the article, and then it will pop after that and shove everything down full length of the phone. It's not that big of a deal, but I have the feeling that this is the sort of thing they're probably going to target that are otherwise obtrusive to your experience and feel like they're getting in your way when you've already sort of gotten there to do what you're there to do. So I'm kind of all for this. I think this.
How do you feel about Google being the one to decide this, though?
Well,
they can essentially declare a certain ad unit off limits. because they're the biggest search engine in the world. Even in places like the United States, they're still the predominant search engine. In places like Europe, they have 90+% of the market. That seems a lot for one company to be in charge of.
That's not only true, but also they are not just the number one search engine in the world. They're the number one ad, affiliated network of ad sharing and ad usage.
Yep.
So they have two conflicts of interest potentially right there, two big ones, the two main ones, in fact. So that's a good point. I think that they probably could make the argument that for their algorithm to produce the best results that people are looking for, part of that, of what people are looking for, is a good browsing experience. And if they're not getting that somewhere because of obtrusive ads or full screen videos or whatever the heck it is, you could probably make this justification. And there's probably a room of lawyers who are saying, yeah, you guys are okay to do this. But I agree with you. It's a little weird.
Yeah, I don't think it's illegal, although sure, it could be an antitrust problem for them at some point. I do think I have concerns. Even sure, they're acting in good interest, saying like, hey, this is something that gets in your way, let's stop it. But if I'm a content site and I'm like, hey, I'm getting a really good rate on these advertisements and they're not from Google AdSense, and you're basically taking that money away from me by lowering my search engine ranking, I'm going to be upset.
You think it should be, so what's another way to handle it? Like some sort of third party that can do it? They say that's the trick, right?
Standard, yeah. There's the IAB, there's the Internet Advertising Bureau, like some kind of, working through some kind of standards body might be something to pursue. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a hard call.
But I think that, they've got the populace on their side. Most people are going to have the reaction you did, which is like, good, I hate those things. Get them out of my way.
Yeah, but then you're right, the site creators and content makers may have a different point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Moore, Senior VP at satellite company Viasat, is leaving the company to take over Alphabet's Project Loon, which delivers internet service from high-altitude balloons. Been talked about on this show before many times. Mike Cassidy, who has been in charge of Project Loon, will step down, but remain with Alphabet X's division, or Alphabet's X division is how you'd say that, which oversees the project. Moore begins his new role at Alphabet X in September. I can't wait for balloon-based internet.
Well, and they're doing it. This is not just something that's pie in the sky, get it? Or balloon in the sky. They're working in Indonesia, in Australia, in several places around the world, and testing this out and putting it in place. So this is another of Alphabet's moves to bring in a commercial head to make money off of what was once a moonshot.
Yeah.
Project Loon was a total moonshot at the beginning. That's why they brought Mike Cassidy on, because he was just like, hey, I'm in the X lab, and I think I can make this work. He's a serial entrepreneur. Now they're bringing in somebody who has worked at a satellite company that makes money, and they're saying, okay, we've got it from moonshot stage to virtually practical. What do we do now? And this is happening in Alphabet across the board. You're seeing them taking these moonshots and bringing in business heads to turn them into viable businesses, or at least see if they can. It makes me wonder, though, if Google is going to move away from that moonshot ethos that the X Lab had, or if we'll start to hear about new moonshot products, because self-driving cars is becoming practical. Now Project Loon is becoming practical. Google Fiber is very practical.
Sure. I'm very curious how this looks in the long. Like, I cannot get my science fiction head out of this idea of balloon-based internet, and if this company makes it a broad-based thing, not just in countries that have a hard time getting other infrastructure in place, but all over the place. Are we looking at a sky full of little dots I might recognize as balloon-based internet? Like, yeah,
will you pull out your telescope and show your kids the balloons that are bringing them the internet in the future?
Super interesting to me that we clutter the skies in these bunches over populated areas or even rural areas with a bunch of balloons that provide internet. That's, for some reason, that really tickles my Philip K. Dick bone. I should stop talking now.
You should be careful with that.
Yeah,
probably with your Hugo Award-winning author bone. I'm with you, though. The idea that eventually, because balloons carry the internet in the sky, we may never be without a connection for the most part it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And do we want the same company that can block full-page ads to be in charge of that? conversation. Speaking of sci-fi stuff, China showed off its planned Mars rover, expected to head to Mars in July or August 2020. It would be the second nation to put a rover on the surface of Mars. Others, like India, have put things in orbit. The United States has been the only one so far to land a rover on Mars. A Long March 5 carrier rocket will get it from Earth to Mars orbit in 7 months, where it will head down to land near the Martian equator. The six-wheeled rover weighs 200 kilograms, it's about 441 pounds, has 13 instruments, including radar, a drill, and a remote sensing camera. It would be designed for a 3-month mission, but it could last much longer. China's got a good track record on this. Their U-2 moon rover was meant for 3 months and lasted 2 years. A lot of NASA rovers have also lasted beyond mission parameters. China's also planning a manned moon landing for 2036.
Oh, getting back to the man stuff. All I can think of is 4 important words: off-planet battle bots. You think that there's political pressure between the U.S. and China here. Just imagine what it's like on the surface of Mars when 2 battle bots face off for the first time.
I don't think that's going to happen, Scott.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll cut everything down a peg. In order to reduce cyber attacks, Singapore, that's the country, the nation of Singapore, is working on cutting off web access for machines used by public officials by May of 2017. That is just next year. Public servants could still surf the web on separate personal or agency-issued devices. Tom, what's the idea? Why?
Yeah, so this is getting misinterpreted, I think, by a lot of folks. They're not cutting off the workers' ability to surf the web because they're worried about them getting on Facebook. You will still, as a public servant, be able to surf the web on your personal device, as Scott just said. What they're doing is saying our intranet, our internal databases, things that don't need internet access shouldn't have internet access on them. Or if they do need internet access, it should be locked down, and there should be no web browser that somebody can then go and download some kind of malware and leak out. So some people are calling it air gapping the computers. I don't think they're exactly air gapping because I believe, if I'm reading this right, they'll still network with each other. So if one gets infected, the others could still get infected. But they're saying there is no need, when you're using the computer that accesses the Singapore government records, to go surf wares.com. Let's just take the browser out of it.
Yeah, actually, I can see that. It makes perfect sense. I'm a little surprised you don't hear about this as more standard procedure everywhere.
Well, a lot of people legitimately point out this will make those workers less productive because they'll have to move to another machine if they need to look something up on the internet, and I think that's part of the hesitancy about it.
It's a good point. Is the thing that there's no firewall strong enough to keep people from the places they don't want them to be?
Yeah, it's a risk assessment. They're saying the risk, we would rather bring the risk closer to zero and risk a little productivity.
Well, there you go. Thank you, cyber attacks in Singapore. Lead the way.
Lead the way, or don't, depending. Thanks to all those who participate in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. We get great stuff in there, like today from Fred, AU Tiger fan, Derek Silva, Loop Garu is in there, Johnsy776 is back, another J. Martin, Greg N., and more. Get in there and vote and submit some stories if you want. dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com, and that's a look at the top stories. So I was reading Penny Arcade. Do you read Penny Arcade?
I do.
I mean, it's no Extra Life, let me tell you.
Well,
My Extra Life, obviously, is my favorite.
Extra Life is no Penny Arcade. Let's put it that way.
But no, I was reading Penny Arcade the other day, and they referenced, I think it was the August 8th edition, they referenced Hooked. Hooked is an app that launched back in September of 2015, and it is a microfiction app, or as they say on their website, fiction for the Snapchat generation. It lets you tell your story through a text message interface. And I tried it out this weekend for the first time, and I was hooked. It's kind of amazing how a text message interface can make you want to know what happens next. Every word is a cliffhanger. And the way they do it is you'll get a message, and then you'll tap, and then you'll get the next message. Sometimes they even do the ... like the person is typing. I even tried writing a little story out there, and I threw it up on Twitter to get some feedback. You get one free story per day in Hooked, or you can pay $3 a week for unlimited access. They give you a little discount if you want to pay a month at a time or a year at a time. And it's kind of building off the tradition of cell phone stories in Japan, if you're familiar with those. People sending you stories through text message. Twitter novels, Wattpad does similar stuff. And this made me think about the Quartz News app, that was released a while back that delivers news stories in a chat-like interface. So you get a bubble with a statement, and then you have two options. You can either move on to the next story or say, tell me more. And the tell me more is always some fun emoji or something like that. The thing that's in common about these is they aren't bots. We've talked about the conversational interface and customer service through bots and chat bots and machine learning and artificial intelligence. This is just taking something dumb, and I don't mean dumb as in my story was dumb, although maybe it was. I mean dumb as in, like, there's no AI going on. It's just delivering something, but the interface is a familiar text messaging interface. What do you think of that, Scott?
Well, what it got me thinking about earlier when you and I were talking pre-show about it over Slack, again, another place where chat is the modus operandi of everyone having a conversation, getting work done. I would argue that that's a piece of this pie, but anyway, and people could say, well, what were forums years ago, or what was IRC back in the day? Well, I know there's a lot of similarities, but I really like the idea of leaning into a future where instead of the traditional thing of searching for something on the internet and saying, all right, well, what keywords am I looking for in Google? That's how I'm going to find it the fastest. The idea of whipping up an app and in a natural conversational style, being able to say either via voice or input via keyboard, man, I could really go for something cold right now and have this thing conversationally come back to me and recommend 4 or 5 juicing places around here that would fit the bill, because it knows from previous interactions that I want to go with a healthy route. I'm not looking for just a 44-ounce Coke at the gas station. I'm looking for something that's better for me. Like, all of those things come into play, and it's almost like you're talking to a friend of yours who's making recommendations for you. It's like bots, like you were talking about. It's kind of that way, but I really like that idea. It's like using, notational velocity or Simple Note to keep track of notes. One thing I like about it is I can just start typing words in. Mm-hmm. And it quickly reminds me of all the times I may have said those words before. And as I say this, I realize it sounds kind of rudimentary, but maybe I didn't get this across clear enough. You don't get to type anything in these, either one of them. They just come to you.
Yeah. So in Hooked, you're just a passive consumer. You tap so the next one comes, but it's like watching two other people talking over text message,
like there's like a voyeuristic.
Yeah, and you're experiencing their story as they talk to each other. Now, there's some limitations to that. As a writer, you can't set a scene. You can't describe what's around you. You have to make one of the characters describe what's going on, and you have to make it sound natural. And with the Quartz app, they pre-populate your responses. And the responses are basically skip to the next story or tell me more about this. They just try to pretty those up so they sound more conversational and natural.
So the advantage of Quartz sounds like I'm getting it fed to me like I would a live feed almost, like hey, this stuff's going on.
It's as if I were text messaging it to you. Yeah, so it's a bubble that says, hey, did you hear that this Ethiopian runner can't go back to his country because he did a protest move when he crossed the line in the marathon? And then it'll say, this is an actual story from today. It had an Ethiopian flag emoji, and then it had said anything else. And if you wanted to hear more, you tap the Ethiopian flag and would tell you a little more about what was going on with that guy. If I tapped anything else, it would just take me to another story.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. Why is it, for some reason, my brain wants to keep pushing toward, well, then how can I start to interact with it?
Well, and that could be something Hooked has talked about, like, what if we did choose your own adventure type situation, branching stories where you could interact, but it's not what they're doing yet. And yet it's catching on. There's a lot of people that are way into Hooked. And I think that's what's fascinating is your brain does want to do that. You're like, well, but if it's a messaging interface, then obviously it should be a bot. And it's not. We've heard so much about bots, and this is an interface that says, no, we're just using it as the interface. Instead of a left side nav and some text in the middle and a headline, we're using that text message look to tell you a story.
Thus potentially anyway, appealing to an entire generation of people whose communications methods are surrounding this interface. That's all they do. Like my kids, this is it. They don't talk on their phones ever unless I call them. It is always some sort of chat interface, whether it's iMessage or some other messaging app, WhatsApp or something, or it's Facebook Messenger or something else. That is their entire thing. So the idea that their other consumption needs on a phone or on a device could be handled in that same way is at the very least interesting. I just can't stop myself from wanting to interact with it. Like, I just downloaded Hooked for the first time. First story started coming in, and man, I want to type on there. I just want to go, hold on a minute.
Like, wait, let me ask a question. But at the same time, when I downloaded it this weekend, and it gave me a story right off before you even get into the app, which I think is actually kind of a nifty way to onboard you, as they say. And I was like, I might want to skip out of this story. And they gave you the option to skip out, and I didn't. I made it all the way to the end because every time they would say something, I would want to be like, well, what's the response going to be?
So you've had a few of them since. Are they all? What's the length of these things? Are they pretty long?
They're a few minutes long. I've only read that first one and then wrote one.
Okay.
But they actually give you an estimate, I think, of how long they take too.
It's pretty neat. I have to admit, I really like the idea. I don't know why I keep wanting to interact with it, and why I feel. I mean, it's a different conversation, obviously, and because bots are a whole different animal, and we're talking about apples and oranges. But the joining of those two things, that's when things get really interesting to me. I've been watching too much Mr. Robot. That's the problem. I just recognize what's going on.
You just want to get right in there in the command line.
Yeah.
Start TTYing.
I have it. So someone's telling me to follow the right rabbit, like in the Matrix or whatever, and that's really cool to me. Like I really like Niantic's game, their game before Pokemon Go. What was it called? That had some promise of that, right? Like this feeling of, ooh, it's the real world, but I'm getting these messages and these videos are coming to me via email and all this. That's super interesting to me. So what you've described sounds like a taste of that, and we'll see how it goes from here. I really like it.
I'm curious too, and Roger, our producer, is actually pointing out in chat, it's an interesting take on Infocom and interactive fiction, and it could become very much something like that as well. But I think I still wonder whether this is a fad, because everybody's in WhatsApp and WeChat and text messaging all the time, and so it's just riding on that, and we'll get tired of it. Or is there something to this? And maybe bots are part of keeping it in our consciousness, where just the interface, even without the interactivity, will be a new format that we'll consume things in, whether it's news or fiction. I think there might be something to that, because there was an element. There were certain things you couldn't tell in this story, and that's true of any different. There's certain things you can't tell as well in a movie as you can in a book, and vice versa. There are certain things you couldn't do, but it was very dialogue focused. And I know some writers are horrible at dialogue, and some writers love dialogue, and those writers that lean into dialogue would love this medium, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I remember back in circa late 2014, there was an app. I think it was called A Dark Room or The Dark Room. I don't remember, but it was a text-based adventure that shot to the top of the charts on the App Store. And I remember thinking, this is like Zork, or like Roger saying in the chat, it's like this old Infocom kind of storytelling. And you forget that most of the other stuff we do in gaming is an extension of that. It's a visual extension of it. We're now seeing things we've never seen before. But back in the day, it was your imagination was the graphics card, and you were left to, at a fork in the road, are you going to go left or right or pick up the rock in the street? And there was something magical about that. So maybe all this is a whole new generation getting tapped into and realizing how cool that can be. And I'm doing a little searching here. There are some other apps and experiences and stuff that are, curated stories. Guys stranded on a planet, can't get off of it. You're his only point of contact. He'll only contact you twice a day because that's kind of like The Martian. There's only a certain time of day when he can do it to get the signal to you. Like, that's a really cool method. You're right, though. Will it last, or will we find a better way to represent it? And I don't know. It's like vinyl. We're back into vinyl, baby.
Yeah, back to text-based adventures and vinyl. Woo, the 70s are here. All right, real quickly, I want to remind folks that this Sunday, Peter Wells from Australia will be doing a day 6. Peter, what are you going to be talking about?
G'day, Tom. This is Pete in Sydney with a preview of what's happening on this Sunday show. Well, of course, we're going to be talking about the tasty new treat to hit my Nexus phone, and that is Nougat, because that's how you say it. You say it Nougat, not Nougat, or whatever you said the other day. This is going to be a really painful year listening to American podcasts, as you all say it wrong, just like you say niche marketing incorrectly, or cache, or a whole bunch of other things. Anyway, we'll be talking about that and anything else that pops up between now and Sunday. And a big shout out to the lovely listener out in Trinidad who bought himself a Sydney Swans Guernsey for the finals this year. That's awesome. All right, speak to you Sunday. See ya.
You call a jersey a Guernsey?
We're back to GIF and GIF.
it's Nougat in the United States.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's Nougat in the land of Nissan instead of Nissan. But whatever you call it, I'm actually really excited about Android's N-named operating system.
It's fine. Look, I've eaten a Three Musketeers. I know what's up with Nougat.
Yes.
These States United, and every commercial I ever saw as a kid, they said Nougat. So I'm just saying, and if they're wrong, then I'm wrong. But yeah, no. Of all the food-based names they've given this stuff, I find Nougat to be the most tasty of them all.
You're just killing Pete Wells right now every time we say Nougat. I do say niche instead of niche, though.
Do you?
I'll give you that one. Yeah.
I say quitch instead of quiche.
Do you now?
No,
Okay.
I don't.
We got some messages in response to our conversation yesterday about whether border agents should be asking you for your social media handles. Matt said, you're probably correct when you say the ones who have something to hide won't list their social media details, but their families and friends might. This is a means to collect intelligence and match associations. I think we're also kidding ourselves if we think our government and every other government is not actually doing this already. It's not a difficult process to take some information from a customs form, hit Twitter and Facebook, and do a search. I would almost be disappointed if they were not at this point. And then he points out that the Onion had it figured out years ago that CIA's Facebook program dramatically cuts the need for intelligence agency collection. We just volunteer this stuff. And then Jason kind of followed that up. He said, as someone who's been online dating for a while, I can attest to how trivial it is to find someone's social media profile with just a first name and some basic demographic information. I regularly vet my dates by looking up their social media profiles, and finding these profiles rarely takes more than a minute. If U.S. Customs wanted to find a traveler's profile, I'm confident they can do so quickly and easily. Disclosing your account just saves them a couple minutes of Googling.
I completely agree with that. Also, there's a reason I went with my name instead of some fake name on the internet, and it's because I figure it's easy either way, so they may as well know who I am, and I got nothing to hide, so there it is.
And I kept my ridiculous Twitter handle Ace Detect because I only want people who really care to follow.
No, I like your method. Your security by obscurity thing is actually pretty strong. I like it.
Ned writes, VCRs had a copy protection method that was practically very similar to HDCP. He's writing in regards to our discussion of analog audio. He says, VCR's copy protection method worked over a composite video signal. It essentially prevented you from making a direct copy of a tape by inserting excessive signal levels that messed with the gain control. There's a great explanation at howstuffworks.com. The dumb video signal that you desire actually already exists and is called HDSDI. This standard is uncompressed, unencrypted, high-definition digital video. It does not support HDCP and can work on cable runs up to 1,000 feet. This is the standard for professional video systems around the world. The audio equivalent of a dumb signal, dumb digital signal, is called AES. And the day that phones and laptops support these standards would be a grand day for us all. Why they are not, I will never understand. This is great information, Ned. Thank you for sharing it with us. It is more of a social reason that analog is without copy protection and digital is. It's not that either one naturally can't or can or have to support some kind of copy protection.
This email taught me something. I have a friend who works at a local an NBC affiliate, and he does cable runs for remote pieces that they do. And he has mentioned HDSDI before, and I didn't know what the crap he was talking about. Makes perfect sense in an industrial, in a setting where you need to run a bunch of cable and not worry about something getting hitched up because of DRM or length problems or whatever. Go for it. So I don't understand either. Let's have it.
Yeah, it's all about them trying to stop people from copying things, which eventually will end because you can't really. It's just a battle of attrition at this point. Well, thank you, Scott Johnson, for joining us. As always, where can folks find out more about what's going on with you these days?
Oh, best place is probably my Twitter account, at Scott Johnson. There's a lot going on right now, but that's a good place to go. Working on a parenting book. If any of you out there are burgeoning or old school parents looking for some easy, fun, very visual advice from two parents who are now getting to the point where, well, we really just have the one left in the house. Sent my other daughter off to her dorm just a few days ago.
Wow.
And you might want to look at that. Kim and I are putting it together. It'll be ready soon. More details, like I say, on my Twitter account, at Scott Johnson.
Thanks to everyone who supports this show. It only takes a few pennies, maybe $1 a month, to make sure that we stay on the internet. So if you can support us, if you're willing to support us, dailytechnewsshow.com/support. Or if you want to get into our Slack channel, there's a level for that. There's a level that just keeps you up to date on the fact, like, I'm going to be out for 2 weeks. All the information is at patreon.com/DTNS. If you just want the headlines, and there's no reason you have to pick, you can do this show and this one. The Daily Tech Headline Show gets you all the headlines of the day in less than 10 minutes, dailytechheadlines.com. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can catch the show live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv, and our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Justin Robert Young on. Talk to you then. Nougat.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Nougat.
Nougat. Nougat.
Nougat is
Nougat.
what the Australian says. I say the Australian, meaning Peter Wells,
This game is so...
until I get confirmation that other Australians also say that.
This app is really interesting because it is a lot like that one I was talking about being stranded in space, except you were answering him and you did it with 3 choices of dialogue. It was like branching dialogue, but other than that, like I'm getting the same feeling about it.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man.
Well, you should check out my
I want to. Did you link it or something? Or is there
I
a way?
did on Twitter on Sunday. If you
Okay.
go back to Sunday, there's a link to it in there.
I will go find that.
I don't know if you can read the whole thing or if it's just a teaser.
Right. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Title.
What kind of title do you
What the
have
hell
for me?
was sucking up on my CPU cycles? Whatever. Top is Fly Me to the Loon.
Fly me to the loon.
Hooked on reading. Hooked on a reading.
Ah.
The Messenger is the medium.
Well, I like all these so far. These are all good.
The Search for Intelligent Life in Cupertino. Have you had your Google Fiber, Scott, today?
No.
No.
Microsoft
bad.
with the word flow.
Nice.
Google adds insult to injury. It's nice.
Oh, I like Zork Chat.
Zork Chat. I would play Zork Chat.
You know, it wouldn't take a lot to repurpose a lot of those games because they were kind of written with a lot of those
Good.
the same kind of floor plan. You
But
just
they
need
were
to-
enough to inspire me to learn BASIC on my Apple II and write my own. It wasn't very good, but I wrote like a text-based space adventure.
So,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is shameful to admit, but those games taught me how to type
There you go.
because they were very unforgiving for
Yeah.
misspellings.
Yeah.
And so to
Oh, I-
progress in the game, you had to learn how to type.
All kinds of computer stuff taught me what little skill at typing that I have, which is not very much. And definitely Infocom games were one of those. Deadline was my favorite.
Well, because you had to type in complete sentences on certain things, and so you like open the door, using the key, so you kind of figure out like where all the keys
Well,
are.
machine learning is finally getting us to the point where we could do what I wanted to do on Infocom games, which is not have to look up what the words were and not have it go, I don't understand jelly donuts. Like it would, you could, if I could just talk in natural language and have it understand me.
Fly Me to the Loon or Hooked on a Reading.
I like the Messenger is the
Is
medium.
the medium. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Roger C. What does that say? What did he say? For the win. CLI. What was CLI? I'm trying to remember. For the win. All I remember, CLI. Was that a game? Ken
Talking
from
about-
Chicago?
Is he talking about Infocom?
Well, he just said Ace Attack, Roger C. CLI for the win. Remember. Real time trying to tell me how to type. The other one was
Oh, he
Muds.
just means command line interface.
Oh, got it. Got it. That did actually help me. Even though I typed up batch scripts and all that, like it wasn't like typing like a complete sentence, like straight out, like the game that would demand it. Not
Yeah.
Zork, but I played Border Zone, and there was the one before not Deadline. There was a murder mystery one, or was it Star-Crossed? Like it was really kind of confusing at the
Deadline
time.
was the murder mystery. That's the one I played.
Okay, maybe that was it. There's Deadline.
Hitchhiker's Guide.
I wanted to get Trinity, but I thought it might be a little too out there because of the way they described the game. There was an incoming nuclear war, and you had a way to dodge it, but you would have to escape to a...
Tinvek's talking about MUDs, too.
MUDs! So many people on MUDs. All the people you didn't want to meet.
Scott's writing his next.
Sorry, I'm totally into this story they're telling me.
All right, is that what you're doing? You're like,
Yeah, I didn't think I would even care, but now it's like even
kind of crazy how it sucks you in, and I think it has to do with the fact that it's one, like you get a message, well, what are they going to say back, and you just want to know.
It's tapping into something in our brains.
You know what it is, and this I always joked about it because I always talked about doing some sort of like Twitter or chat theater where everyone would take a role. And as an audience member, you would be part of the group chat, but you would hear, like, for example, you, Scott, and you, Tom, would talk to each other, and you would talk together in a very conversational way.
Well, there was somebody who did that with the assault on the Death Star, and they assigned a bunch of different people on Twitter, like, you're red leader, you're gold one, and they did that whole thing. That was really fun.
There's a vicarious... vicarious nature to it, like you're in it, although not physically in it. And it adds to the verisimilitude that you're being in a real conversation, because it's like if you had a conference call, right? And then a bunch of other people are talking about various things that, say, like a radio play, like they did to, was it War of the Worlds?
Yeah.
Where they kind of add that emphasis where it's like, wow, it might be happening. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like that stuff.
There might be tripods on the Potomac.
Which story are you reading, Scott?
It's one about some girl stuck in a basement, but it's like hot.
Yeah, that's the same one they onboarded me with. So I think that might be their default first story. It's really good.
Yeah, it's not bad. I guess I'm surprised. I don't know what this is about me.
You're surprised at how quickly
how hooked you got?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because it's like I mean, I know this is the point, and this is why they made the app and why it's doing well, but I thought I would be more like, oh, this is
quaint.
Yeah, not quaint, but like, it's kind of a gimmick, and okay, cool, and then I'd move on. But I really am interested to see how she gets out of this mess she's in. Also watching The Night Of, and that's not helping.
Oh, okay.
That show.
Yeah, I feel like it works best with mysteries.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, if it's just like banter, I'm not sure it would work as well. But this whole like describe where you're at,
I wonder if you could translate like a TV episode script that way. Well, no, because then they would have to you would need a way to describe the setting that they're at, or maybe.
It's basically that old horror trope about girls on the phone, guy on the phone's telling her what to do, and he was in the house the whole time, like that. There's something intrinsically interesting and intriguing about that idea. And I think that's what this is. It's just the same sort of thing. Just like this two-way situation where there's a lot of tension because one person can't really do anything to help the other person.
Yeah.
Really
I put the tweet in the chat room if anybody's interested in checking out the sample of my story. I tried to introduce a third character, which is technologically questionable. Because how would somebody just jump into your chat without you knowing they were there in the first place? But
that's kind of cool, though. That's very Mr. Robot. I like that.
Yeah.
So on this, is there just a template you use to type the actual story into, or do you have to like?
You do it on the app, and they say like, okay. You can put your person's name here, and then they'll save that as an option that you can continue to use, and then you type their message. And the only other option you have is to put the little ... which is that like, makes you think that they're typing a response, but you're not seeing it yet.
The only thing I don't like is I mean, is there a limit, like how long these go? It's weird not knowing. It's not that I need it to be short or long or something in between. I just don't know. So there's something weird about that to me. Like
about not knowing how far into it you are.
Yeah, like I'll be in a show on Netflix or something, and I can
Yeah, you
pause
can
and go,
see.
oh, I'm halfway through.
Yeah,
Like,
there's no progress bar on Hooked.
yeah, I don't know why that's a thing, but it is for me.
I think it's because we're so used to chapters and
Probably.
like ways can be broken out.
Yeah.
Well, and we always like to know how far. Like the reason progress bars exist is to stop people from bailing when they were close to the end, because it's a psychological thing. You want to know you're making progress, or you want to get out.
Yeah. I think that's right.
I do it just in case my Ellie acts up and it's like, well, how much time do we have left? If
Mm.
it's like over half an hour, we'll finish it up the next day.
I like when video games tell me progress as well, depending on the kind of game it is, but I like to be told.
That I'm less annoyed by if the game is compelling enough to keep me wanting to play it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like the the false ending and then you got the real ending right after. It's like, like, am I done with this game yet?
I'll
That's
remember that every time I see your icon in the corner saying that your friend owns this game.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's just always there. It's like my little friend on Steam. I can always see that Roger automatically owns everything.
Owns all the games.
It's a curse, you know.
I know. You don't even have time to use it. It's like a Twilight Zone episode.
Well, like some of the AAA games barely they run on my system now, but the video's still. I have a GTX 570, so it chokes on a lot of the higher end stuff if I don't detune it. Although I wasn't really too bowled over by No Man's Sky, but maybe I've only played like an hour's worth, but I wasn't like feeling it.
It's I was telling Patrick, I think it's an infinite bowl of oatmeal.
That's actually a pretty good description. That's
the
a really
fact
good
that it's
description.
infinite
Sometimes you like oatmeal, you know?
Yeah, I mean, infinite is cool, right? Like it's
Right.
there's technology that you're like, man, that is awesome. But after a while, you realize, well, it's the same oatmeal, though.
I'm still eating oatmeal.
Yeah.
I'm ready for something else.
I mean, which one? Even sandbox games like what's the Bethesda Fallout 4? Is it 4 or 3? I keep forgetting what number
4.
they're on. Like after a while, it's like, okay, I get it. I'm on this mission or whatever. I built these things. It's just more of the same. After a while, you want something different for dinner.
Yeah.
Oh, have you tried the? Have you seen the Telltale Batman games?
I have it. I haven't played it yet, though. I got a free key from the developer, and I haven't played it
Let
yet.
me know what you think, because I have my own. Like
Oh,
I've
you
only
did?
played like the first thing.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm very curious about it. It's. I know it's a much more adult take on Batman.
It's very much an adult take, and it's definitely less. You'll see what I mean when you play it. I
Okay.
don't want to spoil it.
It's let me guess. You're gonna say it's less Batman and more Bruce Wayne.
No, it's not even. It's not even character. It's not even like the actual game mechanics. You'll see, like
Oh.
when you play it. Have you played? You've played like the Telltale, so it's not straight adventure, but a lot of quick time. It feels like a lot of quick
Yeah, a lot
tiny
of quick
events.
time events. It's like I played both of two of the Walking Dead ones that they made, and I also played what was the last one? The one based on the DC Comics Fables books.
Oh yeah, the Wolf inside, or not Wolf Inside of Me. It's
Wolf and me and the wolf. Wolves are us. I forgot.
yeah, the
Wolf
one about the werewolf guy and the.
That one's so good. Oh my gosh, that game was good.
I did not like Back to the Future.
Yeah, Back to the Future is bad.
I really wanted to like Back to the Future because I love Back to the Future. It's like I don't like this.
It was too adventure-y, that one. We could have gone if it had gone a little more cinematic like these. I think it would have done better. And also, the Game of Thrones one's really good.
Oh, I haven't tried that. The Wolf Among Us. Everyone,
Wolf Among Us. Wolf Among Us, Borderlands, Tale, or whatever it's called, and the
Walking Dead.
Game of Thrones one's all really, really, really good.
The Walking Dead really. I didn't like it at first, but after a couple hours, I really got engaged.
Their best ones are the ones where you get engaged with the characters. The
Yeah.
gameplay itself is, whatever it is, but I agree with you. If you can get... That's why I like Wolf Among Us. Those characters are awesome. They're based on that comic, but they're so well realized. It's really, really good.
You mean wolfing it up?
I may have a key to that. What am I saying? You could just download it. You just have it on Steam.
Yeah.
I definitely want it to be called wolfing it up, by the way.
Wolfing it up 2.0. Oh, yeah.
What's a fair? I guess they're all fairy tales that take place in space. It's like Star Wars, Star Trek. Pick a sci-fi adventure. Buck Rogers. That's a fairy tale. All of it.
All of it is. Especially Star Wars, I think. Not in a pejorative way, but you know.
It'll be an interesting space race if China successfully gets their little rover up there.
Yeah.
And a new visit to the moon before we do.
I would like to see NASA and China's space program cooperating, which they're not allowed to do right now because of U.S. rules, and also because of things that China has done that provoked the U.S. to do those rules. I'm not saying which side is right there, but it would be nice if we can cooperate with Russia on stuff. Should be able to figure out how to cooperate
We
with China.
buy their engines because they make pretty good engines. Although the whole idea with having SpaceX and what's Bezos Blue Origin?
Blue Horizon? No.
Blue Origin. No, I think it's
Blue
Blue
Origin.
Origin. Yeah.
Is to have a viable commercial industry that they can base it off of. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I mean, the whole reason why the space race sort of fizzled out at the end after landing on the moon is just an enormous cost and the return on investment that you could show the public directly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were a lot of spin-off benefits.
But part of what drove it was this keeping up with the Russians thing. So maybe we just need someone else to keep up with, and then competition kicks in again.
Mm-hmm.
Now we just cooperate with the Russians.
Well, yeah, and India is doing good stuff. Japan's doing good stuff. ESA in Europe is doing good stuff. Like there is competition. So
yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and they all pick the one area that no one else has done because it satisfies a multitude of things. One, you're not retreading over someone's existing exploration. Two, you can say viably like, hey, we found / discovered this phenomena or whatever.
Right.
And three, it does give you a bit of cachet to say, hey, we struck out on our own and we found this particular thing.
Yep. Well, folks, thanks for watching. Reminder once again, only 2 more shows with me on them before I go on vacation. I will be back. I don't mean 2 more shows and then I'm gone. Just Scott's going to be filling in for a couple. It's going to be awesome.
Yep.
Yes, more than a couple. You're going to be filling in for
3, right?
I was using couple as a non-determinate.
1, 2, 3. 3.
3.
No, 4. 4. You're doing
quadruple.
4.
Whoa! I take one more lick to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop.
Mm-hmm.
So
Don't
2 the first week and 2 the second week.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember that now.
Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, everyone.